greetings everyone, and welcome back to our Standing Watch program. How many times have we heard evangelists, TV evangelists, preachers tell us that the return of Jesus Christ is near, and they're even giving us dates, saying that he is going to come back on this particular date, and of course they have always been wrong, and then they come back with another date, and gullible people still believe them, still follow them, even though by now they should have figured out these people do not speak with godly authority. At the same time, there are people who are telling us about the events in Europe. And there are those who say the euro is doomed to fail and the Eurozone is going to break apart and the whole unification of Europe project will not continue. Mr. Greenspan recently said something to that effect. Now, Mr. Greenspan has been awfully wrong before, but now people jump on these prognostications. There are some who understand, or they say they do, biblical prophecy. And they proclaim that the Eurozone is going to disintegrate and that the euro is going to fall and to fail. And I'm here to tell you, don't believe it. Don't believe it, because that is not what is going to happen. I've told you this before. I am telling you again. Sure, there are problems in Europe right now. They will be solved. The Bible makes this very clear. They will be solved. And the Eurozone, perhaps not exactly with the same member states as they are right now, but the Eurozone as a whole will continue and will become the most powerful bloc in the world. And out of that Eurozone, a very charismatic political leader will arise, and also, quite frankly, a religious leader will arise. Notice, in light of the current problems, what Reuters reported on October 24. The Vatican called for the establishment of a supranational authority with worldwide scope and universal jurisdiction to guide economic policies and decisions. And we can expect that the Vatican, the Roman Catholic Church, will get more involved, more and more, in political decision-making. That's something the Bible has prophesied. You can expect that to occur more and more as we are drawing nearer to the return of Jesus Christ. But those doomsdayers who keep talking about that the euro is going to fail, that the member states, the EU member states, will go back to their national currencies, or they may start a new currency, those doomsdayers have been proven wrong again this week. If you don't know what the events were, let me just briefly tell you about what happened. First, let me start with an article which was published by Der Spiegel, dated October 26, which said, German Chancellor Angela Merkel said on Wednesday that Europe's future prosperity and peace were at stake prior to a very important summit, which would take place beginning Wednesday night. It goes on to say, no one should think, that's what she said, that a further half-century of peace and prosperity is assured. And that is why I say, if the euro fails, Europe will fail, and that must not happen. And that's important to understand. She is absolutely correct. If the euro fails, Europe will fail. And she said that mustn't happen. And I'm here to tell you that will not happen, because the Bible tells you it's not going to happen. It goes on to say in this article, quoting Angela Merkel, we have an historical obligation to defend and to protect the unification of Europe that our ancestors brought out of the war more than 50 years ago after centuries of hate and bloodshed. And the local added on October 26, German Chancellor Angela Merkel on Wednesday said, the euro's weaknesses must be resolved now or never. Remember that very famous song, Now or Never? It's now or never. Well, the way it turned out, it was now. You see, the Drudge report pointed out on October 26, ahead of the summit, but after the parliament in Germany endorsed Angela Merkel's proposals, they talked about the Merkel Miracle. The Merkel Miracle. Because she got her way before the summit. And she also got her way at the summit. But before I go into that, I'd like to read to you from an article in the Washington Post, which was published on October 22, having this to say. For decades, Germany's role in Europe has been to supply the cash, not the leadership. With fresh memories of war, the continent was cautious about German domination. But the economic crisis has shaken Europe's post-war models, and Germany increasingly calls the shots. That's the predicament of leadership, said Joschka Fischer, who was a foreign minister of Germany for a while. He said, when Germany acts, there is a fear that Germany will dominate. If Germany doesn't act, it's a fear that Germany will withdraw from Europe. And then the article goes on to say that when the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, Germany, who was long split between rival Eastern and Western powers, announced plans to reunite. And of course the world was in arms, very afraid that Germany would begin to dominate again the continent. And so this article says, as a condition of French consent to the reunification, French President François Mitterrand demanded a steep price that Germany give up its cherished, stable currency, the Deutschmark, and bind itself to a common currency, and by extension to the broader tapestry of Europe. And to be quite accurately, it wasn't just Mitterrand, it was actually Helmut Kohl, the former German Chancellor, who proposed that. And he said, that's a condition. If you all agree to us unifying and reunifying, we will give up our currency and we will become part of the euro. So you see, the euro was never just meant a common currency, it was part of a political scheme to bring Europe together. And that's why I'm telling you the euro is here to stay. Don't believe those who tell you it's going to fail. They don't know what they're talking about. They have no clue as to what the economic conditions are and as to what the Bible says. This article goes on to say, everybody is calling for leadership, said the country's, Germany's, Deputy Minister Werner Hoyer, but no one wants to be led. But my friends, this is going to change. Germany is destined to lead the European powers. It's destined to lead. And to me, Angela Merkel has an extremely interesting vision as to what she needs to do to keep Europe together and to save the euro. And I believe she is being led. I don't know that she actually realizes what drives her to do those things. But I think she is being used right now to fulfill biblical prophecy. As Helmut Kohl at the time was used to fulfill biblical prophecy when Germany was to become a united country again, which was absolutely necessary to bring about biblical prophecy. This is not going to give any value determination and analysis as to what kind of people we are talking about. I'm just telling you the facts. These people are being used to bring it about. And all those who don't see it, they will be red-faced for shame when they realize what all the nonsense they have been talking about is not going to come to pass. Now, I'd like to read to you from the AFP, dated October 27, to give you a short glimpse as to what happened during that summit we are talking about, a crucial summit, a make-or-break summit as it was called. Chancellor Angela Merkel emerged from 10 hours of negotiations in Brussels with a plan to stem the debt crisis that might as well have been written in Berlin. The German leader forced French President Nicolas Sarkozy to bend to her will on using the European Rescue Fund only as a last resort. Merkel got what she wanted, Shada Islam, an analyst at the Friends of Europe Policy Advisory Group in Brussels, said. This has confirmed, he goes on to say, Germany's role as a make-or-break player, not only in the Eurozone crisis, but in European Union affairs beyond Europe. My friends, we have told you for years, for decades, that it is Germany which is destined to become the dominant player in a United States of Europe. This was already told you when Germany was in ashes after World War II. We told you this because the Bible makes this very, very clear. Now we are beginning to see how it is developing. This article goes on to say, 2 years after the debt crisis came to light in Greece, Merkel is finally translating her status as leader of Europe's biggest economy and biggest contributor to euro area bailouts into international clout. The world is celebrating Angela Merkel, Germany's best-selling Bild newspaper said in its front page headline in its online edition. Now, let me just be clear. I do not believe that Angela Merkel is the one who will ultimately lead Europe and the United States of Europe. I think another one is going to come to do that. But she is being used to bring about these events so that they can take place. So it is high time for us to wake up, to ignore, to reject all these concepts which are floating around, that the euro is going to fail, the Eurozone is going to fail, and that something new is going to be created. We are far beyond that point. The Eurozone is going to be here to stay. The euro is going to be here to stay. Out of it, this charismatic leader called the Beast in the book of Revelation, called the King of the North in the book of Daniel, will arise. He's also called the King of Assyria. If you have ears to hear, please keep your ears open, because we will inform you more and more about these events as they are taking place in Europe, in the light of biblical prophecy, because when this is all coming to a climate, we know that Jesus Christ's return is very, very, very near. Thanks very much for paying attention. This is Norbert Lenk for the Standing Watch program.